Carl Irwin, the common magician, and this is the $1 torn and restored. I had been looking for a way to do a torn and restored dollar bill trick that was convincing in that there were multiple pieces. There are many ways to do a torn and restored type of routine with a dollar bill that involve falsifying a tear, meaning that it makes the sound of tearing, and there is the very sudden casual visual of a tearing without verifying that there's actually pieces. Likewise, there's some other types of torn and restored impromptu dollar bill routines that involve actually tearing a dollar bill and restoring it quite visually. However, the bill really cannot be handed back out because it has tears still in it. The tears are masked in the reveal. And those look very, very visual, but I wanted to be able to borrow a bill and hand it back to the spectator. And then there's other torn and restored routines where a dollar bill is torn up, actually torn up, and then, of course, a duplicate is rung in. And I wanted to avoid tearing money. I wanted to avoid that. I wanted to have something that I could repeat immediately, right away. I could ask for any denomination of American money. This is could be applied, I think, to other types of money, but at least with American money, I could ask for any denomination of bill, whatever people had, and I could, in that moment, tear it with pieces in separate hands, and then restore it completely clean, so that at the end, the spectator's bill can be given directly back to them with no strange moves or ditching of any kind. The hands are left completely clean, and I'm able to repeat it immediately with another bill nearby with some other spectator. So that was my wish list. And what I came up with was this type of routine here. So we have a $1 bill, and the bill could be signed. So the bill that you start with is the bill that the spectator gives to you. And again, if someone in this situation had a $100 bill, I could do the exact same thing right now. Instead of, I could swap this for another bill that was of a different denomination. So this is how this looks. The bill is folded into eighths, I suppose you would say. And in the action of folding and sort of organizing the bill, and of course the pattern could vary depending on your performance style. In the process of doing this, the bill is torn quite visibly into multiple pieces. So I wanted to have several pieces at the end, at least 4 pieces to work with. And then the bill is brought together, all the pieces, and they are placed into the hand. This could be placed into the spectator's hand as well. It is squeezed, rub on the back of the hand, and then the fingers are opened, and the bill has been completely restored. So that is the essence of the effect, and we will look at how this is accomplished here in a moment. A couple things about what this is not. This is not a visual sort of restoration. There are many types of tearing routines where pieces are shown very openly and then dropped back into place. However, I will show you a handling of this that can emulate some of that if you choose to do it. I've settled on this handling. You can make it seem a little bit more visual in that respect, but really what this is the visual I was going for was an obvious tearing, multiple pieces separated, and then the bill is brought back together. So you come from this very impossible state where there was just one bill in the hand, it was torn up into multiple pieces and then brought back together. That's what this is about. So let's talk about a method here. This is the $1 torn and restored, mostly because if you're familiar with these kinds of effects, you probably already know how this works. You probably have a pretty good inclination as to what the method is. This is accomplished with a thumb tip. So you will need to have a thumb tip. I use Vernet plastic thumb tips, the hard plastic thumb tips. I find that these are the best, particularly when dealing with bills, because we want paper to slide very freely in and out of the thumb tip. And then you need to create a couple of gimmicks that you will use and be able to use over and over again. Before we look at the gimmicks, I want to also demonstrate that this can be done with playing cards as well. So you could take a playing card and the exact same sort of presentation could be done. And the playing card could be signed. It could be a playing card that was selected from a deck or something like that, or maybe it was used earlier in an ambitious card routine or something like that. A card that's already in play. And through very similar handling, the playing card could be folded into quarters in this case. And then the playing card could be very visually ripped into pieces. You can see what we're looking at here. And then the pieces could then be brought back together. And then again, they could be placed into the hand or into a spectator's hand, rubbed, and then it would be opened, and you're back to the playing card. So this could be done with a playing card as a torn and restored playing card. It could be done for those of you who have live in countries where you have plastic currency. You don't want to be doing this to playing cards. You could do this routine with Post-it notes or some other kind of notebook paper. That is another option as well. So you could have a pad of Post-it notes and have a spectator sign the note, tear it up, and then do a very similar kind of routine. So let's look at what's going on here very quickly, very short sort of tutorial and some other ideas on handling here before we're done. Okay, so what you'll need is a thumb tip. This is a regular size thumb tip. Again, it is a plastic Vernet. I find that the plastic thumb tips work best when working with bills. And this is going to be a $100 bill switch handling, just the basic one. I don't have any kind of special work put into it. There will be a couple of nuanced differences just to make this effect work a little bit better. But it's just the general Kozlowski handling of the bill change. So you need a thumb tip. You're going to, of course, need a dollar bill that you will borrow on the spot. And as I said, this can be any denomination. I'm going to show you why that is the case in a minute. But you could really ask for any bill. I'm doing it with a 1, and I'm going to make my gimmick here with a $1 bill. But you could use a couple of different denominations to sort out a gimmick. These are the gimmicks right here that we're going to make, and they look pretty straightforward. What I've done, this is actually 2 pieces of prop money where I took this part of the bill. This is a real dollar bill, and this is a prop money. Which you can purchase for relatively inexpensive. I'd say $10 to $15 for a stack of prop money in multiple denominations. You can get these online. It's just paper with fairly accurate printing, and there's obviously marks on the bills that indicate that they are for stage or prop or film and television. But I find these are very, very useful when using higher denominations in magic to make gimmicks where you have a little bit of distance. You can use these fairly up close with spectators because the markings are not very obvious. It doesn't require that you be on a stage in particular. These are typically done well enough that they can get away with performances just a few feet away from people. But prop money. What I'm doing is I'm going to make my gimmicks out of the most generic parts of the bill. So if you look at the back of a $1 bill, we have this kind of olive green printing, where you have the logos here and not the digits, the value written on the bill, but places where you have kind of this frilly stuff and just some basic words, America, United States, the seal, these kinds of places. What I did is I took 2 pieces of prop money, and then I double stick taped them face to face, where I could rip out a piece that had this kind of generic olive green printing on both sides. Now, this pyramid does not show up on any other bills except for the one, but it's not something that people are going to see. They're just going to see kind of a smudge of green on the paper, and that's the color we most associate with bills, with American currency. Not all of the currency has such amount of green, but all of them do have some. As you can see on the $10 bill, has kind of a yellow hue to it. You can see there is some green on the back, and you have various types of buildings and structures and scenes that are printed on the back of the bill. Same with the face. The faces tend to be kind of a white, off-white, or yellowy kind of appearance with a few common items, such as the seals that are on the front. Some of the seals have the value, the denomination value written across it, but there are some other seals on there. And the seals are not identical on every bill, but again, people are not really aware of the differences between the seals. They just know that they're there. So what I did is I made one with the backs on each side. So I just tape these together. You don't have to do this, but I made mine a little bit thicker so that it would last a little longer. And then another gimmick that is created from the front. So I have one here. I think this is a seal from a 5, and then on the back, this is a seal from, I think, a $2 bill that I had in my stack of prop money. So just the seals on there, so you have a bit of the inside of a couple of different denominations that if and when this is seen and glanced, it would look like the bill has been shredded and you're looking at pieces from the inside. So how to rip these gimmicks is the question, and there actually is a method to this. So what we want to do is we're going to take, let's say on this one, I'm going to rip out what would be approximately a quarter size, or rather an eighth of the bill. If we were to fold the bill down into eighths, we want to have a section that is approximately the size of an eighth. And we're going to rip off one side, the other side, and then we're going to rip the top and the bottom as well, so that we have kind of a square like that. So this has the seal on it, and we'll discard these other little pieces here. And then we're going to do another part, and we'll just use the pyramid. It's fine for this. We're going to tear off a chunk that is also about the size of an eighth, and we're going to try to avoid any of the very clear markings that indicate the value of the bill. And this is what we have. So these are the parts that are going to be facing out that the spectator will see. So the spectators will see this green side, and they'll see this seal. And they won't see it very well, but that's the side that's going to be facing out. Now, this ambiguously, with coverage, would pass for any denomination because of the consistency in American currency, even with the changes in color and various types of features that are in the bill. With how we're going to be doing this, this would not be identified very easily as a particular denomination. So that's what we're trying to get away with. What we want to do is we want to take the part that would be facing out, and we want it facing away from us. So this is what would be facing the spectator. So we're going to turn it over. And this is what would be facing the spectator. We're going to turn this over. The first bill that we're going to present in the tearing is going to be this back design here, the green one. So we want to have this one sitting on top. So I have the green back here sitting on top of the seal side, which is then sitting on the bottom. Now what we want to do is on the left-hand side, we want to make a tear that is at a beveled angle. So it's going to go this way from the upper left corner towards the middle. So we're going to just make a little diagonal tear that comes down in this direction. I'll discard those pieces. So we have kind of this odd shape with this corner. And then on the inside bill, again, this is the one with the green part, which would be facing the audience. We're going to do a tear in the upper corner going out. So we have kind of this little peak going out this way. Now, these tears are actually quite important to the handling. This is something that took me a while to sort out exactly the best way to go about this. But in the end, we should have two pieces that have a tear from the upper left going down towards the center, kind of square on either side, and then the front piece here has a little bit of a tear in the upper corner. So we have kind of this little tab sitting out. And what we're going to do then is we're going to fold the bottom up on the face. And this is now ready to be inserted into the thumb tip. So this is a right-handed handling. If you are right-handed, this is how it would be. If you are left-handed, you would do the exact opposite of what I've just done when you create your gimmick. This will now slide into the thumb tip with the thumb sitting on it with the pad there. Now we're ready to do the presentation. So this is for the dollar bill presentation. Just quickly again, these are the gimmicks that I've been using. They're doubled up. I took 2 pieces of bill just to make it thicker, put some double stick tape between them, and then I did my tears, just so that this would last a little bit longer. If you use a real dollar bill, if you invest $1 into this because it is a linen fabric, that should last you quite a while as well. You might want to double it up again because not only will it last a little bit longer, but it also gives you a little bit more to grab onto. It's not quite as flimsy. There's just a little bit more substance there. Another option too, before we get into the handling, you could take a $1 bill and you could just color photocopy onto a white cardstock. That would also be sufficient. So you could photocopy, and it doesn't have to line up, but you could photocopy the back and the front, and then tear off the pieces that you need. Maybe photocopy on both sides of the cardstock. Again, it doesn't have to line up. You just need to have the images kind of on that paper, and then tear out your gimmicks from that. So a few options there for developing the gimmick. Let's get into the handling. So we have the gimmicks that we've made inside of the thumb tip. We ask for a dollar bill. It could be any denomination because our gimmicks are completely ambiguous and they don't really demonstrate a particular denomination. Even though the seals and the graphics that are on them are particular to the one, these are not going to be seen so clearly that the spectator would be able to identify that in the tearing and then in the restoration. So let's say we get a $1 bill. This is the handling. So this is the basic $100 bill switch. You take the bill, you can show both sides of it. Of course, you can show the hand in a nuanced way to be empty, the subtlety. I wouldn't make a big deal about showing that your hands are empty because this is not a bill switch. This is actually a tear. There's a difference between the two presentations, and you want to be mindful of that. So just in subtlety, demonstrate that you have the bill, and that's all there is. Spectator could sign it on the face. You're going to fold the left over the right. Again, normal $100 bill switch handling. You're going to fold the bottom up. And then, normally you would fold the left across to the front. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the right and I'm going to fold it over the left. So this is going out towards the spectator. The reason being is that we want to have an edge here that is green rather than having some kind of a margin sticking out anywhere. We don't want to have any margin sticking out on the end. We want to have this kind of green color. Whereas if we did it this way, in the fold, we would have a little bit of margin sticking out. We want to try to avoid kind of strict straight lines in this side of the bill. So what we're going to do is we're going to push forward on the right, and as we do that, we're going to deposit the thumb tip into the left hand and pull our gimmicks free behind the bill. Now, the reason why we did these tears is because now we have the ability to grab onto the inside of our gimmicks. As we appear to be creasing this side, we're going to be pushing down and getting a grip on the inside of the gimmick. So this bottom edge will just kind of sit perpendicular towards you. You don't want to push it down through the bottom so that it is seen. We want to have that kind of sitting perpendicular. The thumb gets in there, and you can see that we left this little chunk open so that the left-hand thumb can get a grip of the second gimmick underneath. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to do our first tear. So we've just got done creasing the side, and when we go to tear, we're going to pull the top gimmick out and forward like this. And as we do that, we're going to push out with the second gimmick. And what this does, and I'll show you from the front here in a minute, this will put the teared edge out in front of the bill. Okay, so you see that torn edge sticking out. Another thing about doubling up is that it will avoid having kind of any discrepancy here. So if you do print or use 2 bills or use 2 parts or print out green on both sides, that can help with this as well on some of these gimmicks that we've made. So we push out. And we have a torn edge sticking out over here, and we have a torn piece sitting out in front. And this is where the attention goes. Now, when you do this, you want to do the classic false tearing ventriloquist sound. Okay, and this seems really silly, but it is extremely effective. You're going to say ft, that is F-F-F-T, ft, 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 when you do this. So, as you push forward, again, we're in this kind of situation here. As you push forward, you go, you don't have to do it very loud. Just do it very short in the motion of pulling away, and that will mimic the sound of tearing. It also helps that you do this kind of up in front of the face. So this would be kind of up in front of your face as you're doing that, which would give a better projection for the sound that you're doing with your mouth and applying it to the bills. If you're standing right next to somebody, this sound effect can be a little bit off-putting. So you do want to make sure your spectator's kind of out in front of you. Watch your angles, of course, but they should be out in front of you, 6-7 feet away from you, not standing right on top of this. So push out. We have this gimmick sticking out. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to bring the right-hand gimmick back, and you're going to set it in front on top of the bill, and you're going to grip it with your fingers. You're going to reach back and grab the second gimmick and do a second tear. You're going to push forward with the second gimmick and leave the first gimmick behind and do the same sound effect. So now you're left in this situation. From the front, they see these torn pieces. They see a completely torn piece here and a completely torn piece over here, and the actual bill is lost in the mayhem. So you've pushed out, you have 2 torn pieces. Now you can bring this piece back and put it on top of the first piece and regrip. What you've done is you've actually put these pieces back in order, the same order that they were inside of the thumb tip. What you can do at this point is one of 2 things. You can either just push over these gimmicks into the hand and take the bill into the right hand, or you could do another tear. What I would do if you do another tear is grab the bill and conceal it completely behind your fingers except for a little bit of a corner right here, and push forward. You make the sound so that they can only see just a little piece of paper sticking out. You don't want to show a very straight edge to this. You just want to have a little corner showing. I tend not to do that as I've learned to do this. What I do is I just take the bill out in my hand and I show a little bit of a piece of a corner here, and then I put the focus on this side as I rub these 2 pieces together. The illusion that this creates is that you have at least 4 different pieces in the hand. They see 2 over here, and they imagine 2 over here. Okay, and they can see that there is a piece of paper in this hand, and you're not going to be in this situation very long. So you pull apart, you do this, and then what you do is you're going to bring the bill from the right hand back on top of the gimmicks, and now you're set to fold up the gimmicks back on top of each other, and this is exactly the situation they were in at the beginning. Now you can push forward to the left with the gimmicks and insert them into the thumb tip. Now what we're going to do is one of 2 options. I prefer the option as follows. I take the bill, and as I push the thumb tip back on my thumb, I place the bill into the palm of this hand, giving some coverage with the front fingers. I set it in the hand, push it down with the thumb tip to make it secure, and then I let it drop forward. I don't prefer to drop it down like this because this motion is actually pulling back on the thumb tip. The bill, if I lay it down like this, kind of the normal way, it's pulling the thumb tip back away, and I found that that pulls it loose. Rather than doing that, I push down, push the thumb tip on securely, and let it fall forward into the fingers, and then I close the hand as I bring this hand away. You want to subtly show the hand open, but don't make a deal out of it. I find that it is not essential to show the thumb tip head on like this, as some people will do, but just to have the fingers separate and point the thumb towards the spectators through the windows of the fingers as you pull the hand away. Another option is to place a finger on it. And don't make any weird kinds of shapes with the hands as to overly prove anything. Just let that second finger, that middle finger, rest on the tip of the thumb tip and let the hand naturally curl as it comes away. Squeeze with the left hand, You can even rub on the back of your hand, and the thumb tip is hidden behind the knuckle here. You can rub, and it demonstrates subtly that the hand is empty. And then you can turn the hand over, and then open up the fingers, reach in, take out the dollar bill, and then you can unfold it from this point and demonstrate that the bill has been restored. Show it front and back. Don't go out of your way to show hands empty. Just subtly demonstrate that the bill has been restored, and that should be sufficient. The bill can be handed right back out. As that is done, the hands are subtly shown completely empty, and you're free and clear, and you can ditch this thumb tip at your earliest convenience. Alternative handling. Let's get back to this situation here where we have the gimmicks out. So we crease on the right-hand side. We drop down the gimmicks. We rip. We bring back the first piece. We set it on top. We rip again. We bring back the second piece, put it on top. We switch hands and take the bill over to the right, and we show the pieces. So we just have a little corner sticking out over here. We bring them back together. And then this is an alternate handling. What you can do at this point is reach up, push up on the gimmicks as if you're going to insert them back into the thumb tip. And then what you do is you do that. You insert them in, and then you reach over, and you can grab at the front fold, and you can pull it back, and you can do this sort of motion like you're putting pieces together. Okay, so again, what's happening is we're doing kind of, the bill is in reverse from the regular handling of the $100 bill switch. And you know from the $100 bill switch, if you've studied that you generally don't want to cover the whole bill because we don't want to imply that we're switching. Keep in mind that this is not a bill switch. This is a torn and restored effect. It does not matter that we cover the bill completely. There's no assumption that there is another bill at this point, and there won't be at the end because we're going to be completely clean. So again, what you can do is you can deposit this into the hand, and then you can reach over and grab the front panel and pull it back and pretend to place it on there. So you kind of wiggle and rub like this and then pull away, and it offers that visual of the kind of torn and restored playing card of putting a piece back together. Then you can do the same thing again. You reach in with the left-hand finger and you separate the bill here, reach over with the right, cover the entire front, bring down the bottom panel, or the front panel, bring it down to the bottom, and then pretend to put this quarter together by rubbing across the center from the front. So you're rubbing across the center of the bill. Then you focus on the last quarter by rubbing across the center and down the bottom. So across the center and then down the bottom. And then you've restored essentially 4 quarters of a folded bill, and then you can unfold the bill. So that is an alternative handling. You can just unfold the bill as you would with a $100 bill change and play up the idea that you're putting pieces back together. That is an alternative handling. I prefer to place it into the hand. I think it's just a little bit cleaner, a little bit more fail-safe. So that is with the dollar bill from behind. We've constructed our gimmicks. We've looked at the handling options, and this is what it looks like from behind. Let's take a look from the front and see how this looks in terms of handling from the spectator's point of view. So here are some considerations for the front view of the handling. We have our dollar bill. We have our thumb tip set with our gimmicks loaded inside, and we proceed. We're going to fold the front over to the left, or from the left over to the right. We're going to fold the bottom up, and then in reverse from the traditional handling, we're going to fold the performer's point of view right hand side over the left as we deposit the thumb tip into the left hand. As we are folding the crease on this side, we are getting a grip on our gimmicks and opening them up inside of the hand. And then we prepare for the first tear. FFFT as we push forward. The attention is here, and we can see a torn edge on this side. Immediately, this torn piece comes back and is placed on top of the bill. We grip the second gimmicked piece and we tear again. And we can see kind of the inside portions of the bill. This is brought back, placed on top of the bill again. You can either do another tear at this point with the packet, or you can just separate the pieces. I prefer to just separate the pieces at this point. So we separate the pieces, and you can see I'm just showing a little piece of the corner on this side as I rub the pieces on this side. The spectator's perspective is that there's several pieces in play here. And I just separate, and then I bring them right back together, and I place the gimmicks on the back of the bill. Now I'm going to reach down with my thumb, and I'm going to fold up on my gimmicks to get them set to place back into the thumb tip. I push to my left with the gimmicks so that they can be deposited into the thumb tip. They go into the thumb tip, and then I place the whole packet into my hand, drop it forward, and close my hand. The right hand comes away with the thumb tip and the gimmicks now exactly the way they started, perfectly folded up. And the fingers are open, just natural kind of motion pulling away. I squeeze with this hand. I can rub on the back of my hand, showing an obviously empty hand here. And then I can open my fingers to show that the bill has been restored. This could be done potentially inside of the spectator's hand. Handling for that, let's get back to where we were at here. So fold up, fold left. Gimmicks come out. Do the first tear. Second tear. This is very important. Make sure you do that because this is not authentic, right? You need to have that sound, and people will be embarrassed about trying to do that as if it won't work, but it does work extremely well. Again, especially if the bills are kind of at chin level, right about here, you might have your head down a little bit as you do this. It doesn't have to be very loud, but it is essential that you do it. Here goes the second piece, and it comes back in front. Separate the bill from the pieces. Put the bill back on top of the gimmicks, fold up the back of the gimmicks, push over. And what you're going to do is as you place it in the hand, you say, can you hold your hand out? And what you're doing is you're mimicking what you need them to do as you are pushing the bill into the thumb tip and squaring it up. So can you please hold your hand out? As they do that, they'll put their hand out. You can reach out and grab the back of their hand. And now the thumb tip is quite secure. You've pushed it on there. You can set the bill into their hand as you reach around and push their fingers up around it, and you tell them to squeeze. Tell them to turn their hand over. You can rub the back of their hand with your hand with the thumb tip. You can make a gesture around the hand, right, as if you're forming something together. Ideas from various mentalists like Banachek, right? You can ask them if they can feel the pieces against their hand or pushing together or coming together. You can play those up, use those psychological subtleties to convince the spectator that something is happening, have them squeeze more, have them relax more so you can really milk this if you put it in their hand. And then this is extremely powerful because you're now in this position where your hands are empty right out in front. Their focus is on the bill in their hand, and you have completely verified that everything is gone, that there's nothing there. It's all in their hand. All the pieces are there. And then you can say, go ahead and open up your hand. And they open it up, and they themselves will take the bill out that they just saw torn, and they will see that it is their bill with their signature on it or whatever. Okay, so that is an alternative handling for placing it into the spectator's hand. Again, you gesture what you want them to do. You say, can you please put your hand out like this as you square everything up? They do that. You grab their hand, you place it in, you close up their fingers, and then you proceed from there. Next, let's take a look at how this can work with a playing card. Obviously, you need to make gimmicks for a playing card that very much resemble the dollar bill gimmicks that we've made. And then you can also do the same thing for a Post-it note or any kind of piece of paper. It could be for something like business cards. There's many different options for this. You will need to play around with the folding of the item, however, and I leave that up to you because you're going to find various different types of shapes and sizes to make this work. So very quickly, I'll just show you from this angle. These are the gimmicks that I created for the card. So what we're looking at is actually the back of a playing card. You can see I tore off pieces so that there's no margin. There's no white margin anywhere. We're just looking at the interior red. And from my side, this is the part that they'll never see, is the place where you have the actual suit or values pips that are on there. This is what I see. You can see the shape that I've made. It is cut or torn down towards the center, and then the front piece has a little corner torn out. So there is a little tab to grab onto, and then these two pieces are folded up like that, and then they would be inserted into the thumb tip like that. So the thumb tip can come out, or the thumb can come out, and this can be immediately gripped and opened up. It flops down, the gimmick on the inside is grabbed, and then everything is exactly as I demonstrated with the dollar bill. It's the exact same thing. And what you can do is you can have them sign the card, because they never actually see the signature itself on the actual pieces. The signature is on the inside of the card, and you fold the card inside out. One thing you might do if you're going to religiously have them sign the bill, again, any denomination, you might decide to, on your gimmicks, take a Sharpie and just put a couple of swipes on each piece. So I would do it on the piece that has the inside showing. So where you have the seal at, you might just put a little swipe on that. When you have them sign the bill, you might want to have them sign across the face of the president so that the marking would touch that seal or come into that white area. So a little bit of a subtlety there. Or you don't need to do it at all, because there's no reason why they would necessarily see the signature. For the Post-it note, I highly recommend, it's a Post-it note with a signature on it. And this is great because you can just have a pad and a marker. You can have them sign something or write some sort of text on the Post-it note. You can tear it off and you can immediately go into that with the thumb tip in play. What you want to do is you want to make your gimmicks as follows. So I've got the same kind of setup where I've got two pieces, one on top of the other, and it is torn down at this angle towards the middle, and then the front piece has a little corner torn out so that you can grab a tab, and then this is folded up like that, and then this is inserted into the thumb tip, just like this. So exact same setup. The thumb would come out. That tab would be available then to grab, and then the gimmicks would fall open so that the first one can be pushed away, and then the second one. What I did, though, is on the gimmicks on the side where the spectator can see is I just put a couple of black lines. So I just put a little curve on one side, a little curve on the other side. And this is mostly covered by the fingers anyway, but this is something that they would see as I'm tearing the Post-it note, which would sell the effect if they sign nice and big across the Post-it note. So that's an idea for you to use a piece of paper. So this torn and restored kind of gag can work with just a piece of paper from a Post-it pad or some other kind of pad. With Post-it notes, you do have to contend with that sticky side. So make sure that when you make your gimmicks, you don't include any of the stickiness in your gimmick. Make sure you rip that part off. Make your gimmicks from just regular paper. Also, whenever you go to fold your Post-it note, be aware that when you unfold it, it's going to have that stickiness to it as well. Perfect thing to put into the spectator's hand and have them unfold it, because they'll have a hard time getting that open. You can let them do it and discover that their name is written on that note. So that is essentially the $1 torn and restored. That's it. It's, in my mind, the method here is worth, it costs $1, right? But I think it's worth a whole lot more than that, because of the visual. It's a really, really convincing tear. There's no mistake about it. The dollar bill, the card, the paper is being torn right in front of the spectator. There was only that card or bill to start with. It is torn into pieces, and then it is restored, and the one that you end with is theirs and is given right back. So any denomination within American currency can work with this if you make your bills, your gimmicks properly. Certainly, your gimmicks for a playing card can match any of that type of back playing card. And it's instantly repeatable. As soon as you're done with it, it's actually set to go again. If you're table hopping and you go over to another place, you can borrow somebody else's bill. You can do it all night long, and it will look the same every single time. Do be mindful that your gimmicks, because they are made of paper, will wear out, but they really don't need to cost you anything. You don't have to make them out of a real bill. You could do the photocopy on an inkjet of just a part of a bill. You could grab an image online and just print that out of portions of the design of a dollar, or just create something like it. In the good old days, they used to take newspapers that had just kind of artistic sort of patterns, and they were black and white, and they'd take pieces of that to fill in, to sit in for a dollar bill when you had to burn it or rip it or do something like that. So a lot of different options there as far as what you make your gimmicks from. Or if you want to make it last, you could use a real $1 bill, double it up as I have done with some double stick tape, and then tear it up, and that should last you a long time because it is made out of a linen fabric. That's all I have for you on the actual method of the effect and the presentation of it. Some ideas to get you started. Obviously, you can tweak this to match any kind of presentation that suits your style. I do want to talk briefly about dollar bill magic, and where you can learn about a little bit more about money magic that can go together with this sort of routine. If you have a borrowed bill in your hand, you might as well do other things with it. I highly recommend the World's Greatest Magic DVD series or video series that is available for, I think, less than $15 right now. The video that deals with money magic. So Money Magic, World's Greatest Magic. Has a lot of great ideas. Some of those ideas that I've presented here originate from the core ideas that you'll find in that excellent presentation that gives you a wide variety of concepts that have been duplicated over and over again in other products after and since. Another place that I would highly recommend that you look if you are into money magic, and particularly things related to the methodology of the $100 bill switch, is the John Lovick book, Switch, Unfolding the $100 Bill Change. It is the Bible on this effect. You will find similar kinds of ideas to what I'm describing here inside of that book. Many different presentations for folding and changing or restoring various types of paper, not just dollar bills, but also dealing with billets. And keep in mind that the effect can be very different and the method can be the same. So just using this one method of the classic bill change, you can do many, many different effects with that. And you'll find just about any imaginable concept that you can think of in that book. So John Lovick, Switch, Unfolding the $100 Bill Change, and World's Greatest Magic, Money Magic. So those are my recommendations. This is what I have for you. I hope you enjoy this purchase and that you put it to use, and happy magicking.